Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are Wednesday night, another week of house arrest. We're glad to have you arrested along with us. And while we're quarantined, we're going to see if we can fight back with Ragtime as we've been doing for the last several weeks. My name is Ragtime Rick, of course. Banjo Betsy is here on the banjo, and my friend Wes Linenkugel on the string bass. We're a little bit out of practice, and Wednesday nights are the only opportunity we have to play for anybody. But we're going to give it our best shot tonight and certainly hope that you'll have about an hour of what we refer to as live entertainment. We're going to start off with some ragtime, actually. This is a song that was written by Jelly Roll Morton, and it was written as a rag, although it was renamed as a blues by the music publisher. It was named after a barber shop up in Michigan, and the great piano player Jelly Roll Morton lived in Michigan at one point and used to frequent a particular barber shop. And in those days, the barber shops typically would have a piano in the back room. The ones that didn't would make up for that by learning how to sing in four-part harmony, and that's where the barbershop quartets came from. But this particular barbershop had a piano in the back room, and Jelly Roll Morton used to play it. And he liked the place, and they all liked him, and he sat down and he wrote a rag, a nice piano rag that he named after the barber shop. And he sent it to Walter Melrose and Company, the publishers in Chicago, and they liked it, and they decided they'd publish it, but they said, you know, the blues are really popular these days, so if we call this a blues, we'll probably sell more copies of the sheet music. And that's how a wonderful rag by Jelly Roll Morton called The Wolverine became known as the Wolverine Blues. right, the Wolverine Blues, one of Jelly Roll Morton's compositions. The great Jelly Roll Morton, outstanding piano player, composer, band leader, pool shark, raconteur, and several other professions that were not maybe necessarily legitimate ones. Still, what a character he was. Jelly Roll Morton. We're being refreshed, if you will, by the Ernest Brewing Company in South Toledo. They make some great beer, and this is some kind of an IPA with mango, pineapple, and lots of other stuff in it. It's actually absolutely delicious, and we appreciate the opportunity to drink some really good craft beers while we're playing. Once upon a time, it was a real challenge to try to get a beer like this, at least in the United States. Now, all of a sudden, well, they're all over the place, and for that, I am personally grateful. So it's fun to sit down and play some songs and reminisce about the years gone by when we used to sit around the old establishment. Actually, I'd like to sit around any establishment these days. Boy, the places have all dried up. But it reminds me. Oh, the liquor was spilled on the barroom floor. The bar was closed for the night. When out from a hole came a little brown mouse to dance in the pale moonlight. He lapped up the liquor off the barroom floor, and back on his haunches he sat. And all night long you could hear him roar, "Bring on the gall-darn cat." So the cat came out from a hole in the wall, and he ate up the little brown mouse. And the moral of my story is, never take a drink on the house. Well, that's good advice. Never take a drink on the house. Try telling that to the board. Well, they never would have listened. Anyway, great fun and great memories of days gone by when we used to be able to sit and bend our elbows and tell stories all afternoon at our favorite watering holes. I certainly hope that'll happen again soon. Well, let me see. I think last week we played a song called Bye Bye Blackbird. And I think the week before we played a song called When the Red, Red Robin Comes Bob, Bob, Bobbing Along. Those songs, of course, were both for the birds. Speaking of the birds, when my sugar walks down the street, all the little birdies go tweet, tweet, tweet. And in the evening when the sun goes down, it's never dark when she's around. She's so affectionate, and I'll say this, that when she kisses me, I sure stay kissed. When my sugar walks down the street, the little birdies go tweet, tweet, tweet. When my sugar walks down the street, all the little birdies go tweet, tweet, tweet. And in the evening when the sun goes down, It's never dark when she's around. She's so affectionate, and I'll say this, that when she kisses me, I sure stay kissed. When my sugar walks down the street, the little birdies go tweet, tweet, tweet. That song we can definitely say was for the birds. Once upon a time, there were plenty of bird songs, and fortunately, we don't have to listen to any of that crowing here tonight at our undisclosed location at our internet concert, and that's a different story entirely if we were at the Sodbuster tonight, but we're not going to talk about that right at the moment. What we are going to do is play another bird song that was very, very popular during the 1920s, and you really never hear it at all anymore. And that's too bad because it's a neat tune. At least I like it. You can look it up on YouTube. There's a wonderful performance from, I think it was 1927. It was Blossom Seeley and her husband, whose name was Benny Fields, and the two of them had a wonderful rendition of a song called Hello Bluebird. For some reason, this song was very, very popular in the 1920s and just didn't survive, and I don't know why. We'll see how it goes. All day long I jump and run about. You can always hear me shouting out, hello, bluebird. Got no time for blues or anything. I'm so happy I just want to sing. Hello, bluebird. Blue skies, sunshine, friends that are real. Old folks, sweethearts, oh how I feel. I'll not go roaming like I did again. I'll stay home and be a kid again. Hello, bluebird, hello. Hello, bluebird. Hello, bluebird. Blue skies, sunshine, friends that are real. Old folks, sweethearts, oh how I feel. I'll not go roaming like I did again. I'll stay home and be a kid again. Hello, bluebird, hello. Well, there you have it. Hello, bluebird. A very, very popular song from the 1920s. I think what happened is that it was so popular that they wrote another song to cash in on its popularity, and they decided they had to use a different bird, or at least a different color bird, and they couldn't say hello anymore, so they decided to say goodbye, and all of a sudden, Bye Bye Blackbird became so popular that everybody forgot about the bluebird, and they didn't say hello anymore. They just said Bye Bye Blackbird. As I said, Blossom Seeley performed that song back in the 1920s. I think it was a 1927 Vitaphone movie, and it's readily available on YouTube. I did not know until my friend Ben Urish, the professor of popular culture, told me that Judy Garland sang that song on her television show back around 1960. And it was kind of an unusual trio. It was Judy Garland, Robert Goulet, and Phil Silvers. And they played it like a ballad. They sang it much slower. And it sounded nice that way, too. Great old song that you never hear anymore. Hello, Bluebird. Well, let's go back even farther. That was a song that was performed at least in 1927 by Blossom Seeley. But if you go back about a generation, the big hit songs in 1902 Well, they had a little bit of different flavor. Of course, ragtime was at its height of popularity in 1902. It really kind of swept the country and even the world with its ragtime flavor and ragtime attitude. Before ragtime came along, songs were all very, not all, but the very popular songs were very slow and very sad. Songs like "Take Back Your Gold, for gold will never buy me," or "She's only a bird in a gilded cage, a pitiful sight to see," or "Father, dear father, come home with me now, the clock in the steeple strikes 2. Mother is waiting, the rent must be paid, don't spend all your money on brew." Well, then ragtime came along and the attitude changed along with the music, and instead of "Take back your gold, for gold will never buy me," they were singing songs like, "If you ain't got any money, don't you bother coming round. You ain't the only poodle in the pound." A whole different attitude, a whole new style of songs. And my grandmother rather, used to sing this song when she was doing her ironing, back when Monday was wash day and Tuesday was ironing day. And I can just visualize her today, standing in the living room in Queens, New York, with a big laundry basket there. And as she was busy doing her ironing, she'd be singing this song. Who's that a knocking at the door below? Who's that a shivering in the hail and snow? I can hear you grumbling, Mr. Rufus Brown. Just keep on a knocking, babe, I ain't coming down. I wants to tell you that you can't come in. Have you been a gambling? Now, honey, did you win? Quit your complaining, babe, you're wasting your breath, 'cause I hope you freezes to death. Rufus Rassus Johnson Brown, what you gonna do when the rent comes around? What you gonna say? How you gonna pay? You'll never have a bit of sense till Judgment Day. You know and I know the rent means no. The landlord's gonna throw us out into the snow. Rufus Rassus Johnson Brown, what you gonna do when the rent comes around? Keep on a banging on that old front door. In just a minute, babe, you'll hear me snore. If I go to bed around a bite of sup, you will be an icicle when I gets up. Where's all the money that you said you'd bring? I bet it's melted away like the snow last spring. Rufus, I love you, but this serves you right. I guess that's sufficient. Good night. Rufus Rassus Johnson Brown, what you gonna do when the rent comes around? What you gonna say? How you gonna pay? You'll never have a bit of sense till Judgment Day. You know and I know the rent means dough. Landlord's gonna throw us in the cold, cold snow. Rufus Rassus Johnson Brown, what you gonna do when the rent comes round? Rufus Rassus Johnson Brown, what you gonna do when the rent comes around? That was a big hit song of right about 1902. My grandmother would have been 11 years old when that song was popular. And she sang it as far back as I can remember. She'd sing that song when she was doing her ironing. My grandfather was very fond of a song that came out just about the same year, and he always played that song on the banjo. My grandfather played the banjo, and he learned to play the banjo back when ragtime was first popular. And it's interesting, he played a 5-string banjo, but he did not play it bluegrass style at all. He played it in the Wes L. Osman or the Fred Van Epps style. And I can still hear him strumming that banjo and playing all those melodies. And one of the songs that he always loved, well, it tells a whole story. And the story goes like this. It was early on Monday morning. The sun was shining fine. The lady love of Willard Bailey was hanging clothes on the line in her backyard and working hard. Now she married a B&O brakeman, but then she took and threw him out. She was bellowing like a prune-fed cat with a freight gang hanging about. And to that crowd, she said out loud, "Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home?" She moans the whole night long. "I'll do the cooking, honey. I'll pay the rent. I know I've done you wrong. Remember that rainy evening I drove you out with nothing but a fine-tooth comb, and I'll never part with that. I know I'm to blame, honey. Ain't that a shame? Bill Bailey, won't you please come home? Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home?" She moans the whole night long. "I'll do the cooking, honey. I'll pay the rent. I know I done you wrong. Remember that rainy evening I drove you out with nothing but a fine-tooth comb. I know I'm to blame, honey. Ain't that a shame? Bill Bailey, won't you please come home?" Bill went driving by one day in a great big automobile. There were lots of rhinestones on the spokes. You'd hear that old gal squeal, "He's all alone." I heard her moan. Then she hollered through the door, "Bill Bailey, is you sore? Now wait a minute, come and listen to me. Will I see you anymore?" Bill winked his eye, and I heard her sigh. "Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home?" She moaned the whole night long. "I'll do the cooking, honey. I'll pay the rent. I know I done you wrong. Remember that rainy evening I drove you out with nothing but a fine-tooth comb? Well, I know I'm to blame, honey. Ain't that a shame? Bill Bailey, won't you please come home?" In case you're not familiar with Bill Bailey, old Willard Bailey was a real person. He lived in Jackson, Michigan. He worked for the railroad there, the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, and he was in an argument with his wife one night. And in those days in the summer, the houses were real close together and there was no air conditioning, so the windows were open. And so his neighbors could hear the entire fight. And one of his neighbors, a fellow named Huey Cannon, got a lot of pleasure out of seeing the Baileys fight and seeing old Willard Bailey being thrown out of his own house. So he wrote the song, sold for $50 and felt pretty happy about it, until the song went on to earn millions of dollars, and then he didn't feel so good about it. Old Willard Bailey never did come home. He moved out to California and died there around 1960. Mrs. Willard Bailey never forgave her nosy neighbor for writing that song, and in her opinion, he's the one that broke up the marriage. Never mind the fight that they had. But he never did come home. Bill Bailey never did come home, and she blamed it on the neighbor, Huey Cannon, who wrote the song. Huey Cannon himself died right here in the city of Toledo. He died at the corner of Arlington and Detroit Avenue in the old state hospital, the old mental hospital. Of course, they weren't so polite in those days. They didn't call it the mental hospital. They called it the nut house or the loony bin. Things weren't quite so politically correct in those days. You may have heard the story about the time that the workmen were planting strawberries around the outside of the fence at the state hospital. And they were busy digging in the springtime and planting these strawberries because the bushes were attractive and they could feed the fruit to the patients in the hospital. And one of the patients was standing there looking through the fence at the workman. Says to the one workman, "What are you doing?" The workman says, "I'm putting horse manure on the strawberries." And the patient says, "Gee, we put whipped cream on ours and they call us crazy." Well, yeah, we'll leave a pause there for the rim shot from the drummer who couldn't be with us this evening. Actually, the drummer is never with us. He's against us even when he's playing with us. I'll drink to that. Bill Bailey, Won't You Please Come Home? A big hit song from 1902. Back to the 1920s, there was a fellow who recorded prolifically, and he kind of started a whole new category for the record companies. They didn't really know what to call his style of music. They had called it old-timey music beforehand, and that didn't exactly describe it. And so they decided to come up with a whole new category. And so Vernon Dalhart is widely now recognized as the father of the type of music that they finally decided to call country and western. And it was Vernon Dalhart who performed some of the great songs, especially the great, if you will, as they called them in those days, the hillbilly songs of the 1920s and 1930s. And his most popular tune was called The Prisoner's Song. Those of us who are under house arrest now can appreciate this one. I'll dedicate this to all of you who are still under quarantine. Oh, I wish I had someone to love me, someone who would call me their own. Oh, I wish I had someone to live with, for I'm tired of living alone. Oh, please meet me tonight in the moonlight. Please meet me tonight all alone. For I have a sad story to tell you. It's a story that's never been told. I'll be carried to the new jail tomorrow, leaving my poor darling alone, with those cold prison bars all around me, and my head on a pillow of stone. Now if I had the wings of an angel, over these prison walls I would fly. I would fly to the arms of my darling, and there I'd be willing to die. Now if I had the wings of an angel, over these prison walls I would fly. I would fly to the arms of my darling, and there I'd be willing to die. The Prisoner Song. That was Vernon Dalhart, and that was his biggest hit, although he had a number of other songs that were very, very popular. Songs like The Wreck of the Old 97. That was a big Vernon Dalhart song. If I had the wings of an angel over these prison walls, I would fly. Well, it looks like we're getting out of house arrest fairly soon. Things are starting to open up, and we're grateful for that. I should mention that our Wednesday night concerts here on internet television, if you will, are sponsored in part by the Saturday Morning Extravaganza on AM 1230 WCWA, Toledo's second oldest radio station. Monday through Friday, AM 1230 is Fox Sports Radio. But the beautiful thing is that WCWA never got rid of their music library. And every Saturday morning, actually starting at 6 in the morning, we go into that music library. We start off with the early morning oldies from 6 until 8 o'clock, and then some guy named Johnny Trumpet. Well, his name is actually Johnny Grafing, and he's pretty good with a TV camera. But when he's not running a TV camera, he runs the 8 a.m. till 9 a.m. program on WCWA, the Extravaganza warm-up show, and then I come back on at 9 a.m. with the Saturday Morning Extravaganza all the way up until the hour of 12 noon. You're all invited to join me. We play music right out of the WCWA Music Library, which encompasses all kinds of things. That's why we call it an extravaganza. And you're all welcome to join me. If you're in the Toledo area, you can pick us up at 1230 on the AM radio dial, or FM 104.7 HD2 if you have a special HD radio. But it is an iHeart radio station, and it's streaming on the internet at 1230foxsports.com. So you're all invited to join me any Saturday morning. We have some wonderful sponsors on the Saturday morning extravaganza, including Brower Freeman Jewelers, which will be reopening next week. Brower Freeman Jewelers has been in business since 1877, and that's a long time. They're located now in the Ottawa Hill Shopping Center in Toledo, 4328 West Central Avenue, just a little west of Talmadge Road. That's Brower Freeman Jewelers in the Ottawa Hill Shopping Center. And Craig's Pianos and Keyboards will be reopening Monday. Craig's Pianos and Keyboards is located at 2902 Sylvania Avenue between Douglas Road and Secor. And they've got some beautiful pianos in their showrooms. They have pianos and keyboards in every size, shape, and price range. And as they say, beautiful music begins at Craig's. Now, Craig's Pianos and Keyboards will be reopening, and all of their piano services will be available: tuning, repairing, rebuilding, restorations, estimates for fire or water damage, and appraisals. They do all that sort of thing. The showroom will also be open, but only by appointment. But that's easy to do. All you have to do is call Craig's Pianos and Keyboards to make that appointment. 419-472-0202. That's 419-472-0202. Craig's Pianos and Keyboards. Beautiful music begins at Craig's. Well, we're going to get back to music now. I don't know if it's beautiful or not, but we're going to get back to music. There was a comedy team in the 1890s and early 1900s, Weber and Fields, Joe Weber and Lou Fields, and they did their act in outrageous German accents. And I believe Lou Fields was rather tall and thin, and Joe Weber was kind of short and stocky, and they'd always make their entrance with the tall guy pushing the shorter guy on stage as the curtain opened, and the short guy was always saying, "Don't push me, don't push me." Well, Lou Fields had several kids, and he told them all to stay out of show business, but I think a number of them decided to actually be in show business. Herbert Fields used to write the libretto, the script for many Broadway shows. His sister, Dorothy Fields, was quite a songwriter. She wrote a lot of great songs over the years. She started writing a few songs with a fellow named J. Fred Coots, and none of those songs took off. J. Fred Coots did all right for himself. A number of years later, he wrote a song that you've probably sung many, many times called Santa Claus is Coming to Town. But Dorothy Fields went on and got together with a song plugger, a guy named Jimmy McHugh, and they wrote all of the songs for the show Blackbirds of 1928. And I didn't even have to hear a caw. Blackbirds of 1928. The music was written by Dorothy Fields and Jimmy McHugh. Now, there were a lot of great songs in that show, songs like Magnolia's Wedding Day, which you probably don't remember, Dig-a-Dig-a-Doo, which you may remember, and the most popular song from the show, Blackbirds of 1928, went like this. I can't give you anything but love. Baby, that's the only thing I've plenty of. Baby, dream a while, scheme a while, where should I find happiness? And I guess all those things you've always pined for. Gee, I'd like to see you looking swell. Baby, diamond bracelets Woolworth doesn't sell. Baby, till that lucky day, you know darn well. Baby, I can't give you anything but love. I can't give you anything but love. Baby, that's the only thing I've plenty of. Baby, dream a while, scheme a while, where should I find happiness? And I guess all those things you've always pined for. Gee, I'd like to see you looking swell. Baby, diamond bracelets Woolworth doesn't sell. Baby, till that lucky day, you know darn well. Baby, I can't give you anything but love. I can't give you anything but love. Baby, the big hit song from Blackbirds of 1928. Well, we've had a number of requests, but of course we're going to keep playing anyway. And we don't take requests, but we can be bribed, and actually we've got a nice bribe up here right now. We want to say thank you to the patron of the arts. A special thanks to the Ernest Brewing Company for making such good brew. But we have a couple of requests. We'll see if we can. Get them in. We had one request because Mother's Day is coming up Sunday, so we're going to play a song for all the mothers that may be watching or listening. I'm just going to leave that alone. Here's a song that was very, very popular once upon a time, and it was in one of those early Warner Brothers talking pictures, 1928 or 1929, when it was performed by a fellow who became known as America's Toastmaster, George E. Jessel. And the song went like this. one bright and shining light that taught me wrong from right, I found in my mother's eyes. Those baby tales she told, those streets all paved with gold, I found in my mother's eyes. Just like a wandering sparrow, one lonely soul, I'll walk the straight and narrow to reach my goal. God's gift from up above, one true unselfish love, I found in my mother's eyes. And if I should drown in the deepest sea, I know whose tears would come down to me, my mother's. And if I should hang from the highest tree, I know whose tears would come up to me, my mother's. For the world may call you a failure and they may all treat you cold, but in the eyes of your mother, you're as pure as the finest gold. Just like a wandering sparrow, one lonely soul, I'll walk the straight and narrow to reach my goal. God's gift sent from above, one true unselfish love, I found in my mother's eyes. They don't write them like that anymore. I don't think they're even allowed to write them like that anymore. But My Mother's Eyes was made very, very popular by America's Toastmaster, George E. Jessel. Well, that's a song about mother. And we could play a song about grandmother. The other morning, about the break of day, a couple emerged from a dim cafe. A great big car was waiting there to escort them far away. And I was very much astonished to hear the young man say, "Oh, won't you roll the patrol a little closer to the curb? Poor grandmother can't step that high. Grandmother's usually so quiet. I'm so sorry she started that riot. How she got out of hand, I just don't understand. 'Cause all she had was 16 shots of rye. So won't you roll the patrol a little closer to the curb? Poor grandmother can't step that high." Oh, won't you roll the patrol a little closer to the curb? Poor grandmother can't step that high. Oh, won't you back it up, please, just a little there, brother? Last week she slipped and fell down in the gutter. Oh, won't you drive past the mill? You see, Grandpa works there still, and it'd be nice if she could wave as we rode by. So won't you roll the patrol a little closer to the curb? Poor grandmother can't step that high. Now that song would bring a tear to a glass eye. Roll the patrol a little closer to the curb. Poor grandmother can't step that high. Yeah, that song always gets to me. It's a song I learned on my mother's knee or some other low joint. Back before the Pointer Sisters were popular, there were the McGuire Sisters, and before the McGuire Sisters, there were the Andrews Sisters, and before the Andrews Sisters, there were the Boswell Sisters, and before the Boswell Sisters, there were the Brox Sisters, B-R-O-X. They were very popular in their day. In fact, they sang in the movie King of Jazz, which featured Paul Whiteman's band. The Rhythm Boys were the boy singers, and that was a fellow named Al Rinker, Harry Barris, and a very young Harry Lillis, better known as Bing Crosby. They were the boy singers. The Brock Sisters were the girl singers. And the Brock Sisters used to introduce all sorts of great songs. And one of them sounded like this. Like a child who strayed away from home, I had to roam, played hooky from home, sweet home. I'd be just like any other fool who chanced to stray. That's why I say, tie me to your apron strings again. I know there's room for me upon your knee. Bring back all those happy hours when you kissed my tears away from day to day. I thought that I was right, but I was wrong. Please take me back tonight where I belong. Sing a cradle song for me, and then won't you tie me to your apron strings again? me to your apron strings again. I know there's room for me upon your knee. Bring back all those happy hours when you kissed my tears away from day to day. I thought that I was right, but I was wrong. Please take me back tonight where I belong. Sing a cradle song for me, and then won't you tie me to your apron strings again? Tie me to your apron strings. That's another request that we had. A song that was made popular by the Brox sisters of all people. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but we got a request from John, who apparently is watching from down in Florida. John often listens to the Saturday morning extravaganza from down in Florida and calls us up when we actually have a telephone in the studio with requests. And he's got some good requests that we'd like to play. 419-214-1230, but don't try calling it this weekend because we're still not allowed in that building, and therefore we don't have a phone line. We can't take any requests. But John said, that's okay. I won't call on Saturday morning. Could you play a song for me now? And the song that he asked for, I believe the title of it is not Swanee River. I believe the original title was Old Folks at Home. It was written by Stephen Foster, and it's not a song that I'm used to playing, but if I were going to play it, it would probably sound something like this. Well, if I was going to play the Swanee River, that's probably the way I would play it. Old Folks at Home was the original title, a Stephen Foster song. And holy smokes, this last hour has just flown by. I can tell because the low battery light is flashing, and I can't believe he bought new cameras and new equipment and still kept the same old batteries. But it looks like we've got about another 30 seconds or so. We'll have to play this one fast. So if this song cuts out in the middle of the song, you'll know that it wasn't our fault. We'll say goodnight ahead of time. And with a little bit of luck, we'll get all the way through it. And, well, we're going to try this one. I haven't been keeping up on my ragtime too well, but we'll see if the fingers are working tonight. Here's a Scott Joplin composition called The Pineapple Rag in honor of the Mango Pineapple IPA. Well, there you are, the Pineapple Rag, or a reasonable facsimile of. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next week, assuming we're still under house arrest. We'll see you then. Have a wonderful evening, and good night.
Performance of the Ragtime Rick Show. If you have, click the like button and let us know. Don't forget, there's more where that came from. Be sure to subscribe to the Grafing Productions YouTube channel. And while you're at it, hit that notification bell so you can be sure to catch every new video. It takes a lot of resources to put on a concert like this. To help us make more, please contribute to our PayPal. That's paypal.me/ragtimerick. Thanks for watching.